Okay, let's try this, see if this is any better. We should be live again. Okay. This looks a bit better, right? Are we back? Are we... Looks great. For some reason, I guess maybe updates on my machine have just completely destroyed the hardware encoding. So I switched to the software encoder, and now it looks great, yeah. There is a significant delay on the stream, though, so we won't be looking at that. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. So we've got an input type number. We've got this mouse down event listener, and we've got the owner document mouse move, and we can see the events coming through. If I, yeah, we can see all these mouse events every time I move the cursor. So what we want to do, I guess, is use this mouse move event, but we don't want to listen to it whenever the element is active. We only want to listen to it when the mouse down event has happened, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we can also add like a I don't know why this is indented so much. Maybe we can also add some host styles, and we can add like a cursor. Is it like resize?
It's a EW resize, so east-west resize. Yeah, I think it's EW dash resize.
Oh, is it EW dash resize?
If I remember right. No? Let's see.
No, let's have a look. It could be that I've got this wrong yet again.
I think you need to apply it to the input field because...
Oh, the input field is overriding it? Okay. Sure. Let's well, let's say cursor inherit on the input should work. Yeah, there we go. So this way we can still override it with the host styles if we wanted to. So the host is like almost like a user agent style for this slider input. So I can change this to cursor text as someone who wants to customize this if I so chose. Okay, so if an event type is mouse down, I guess we also want to check the key. So if I console log this event, let me clear the console. We're still logging this. If I clear the console, if I right click, we can see that we've got a mouse event, and it is the mouse down event. There it is, type mouse down. The which is number 3. If I left click, we can see which is 1. If I middle click, my mouse just happens to have a middle click button. We can see which is 2. So we want to probably check first, right? We want to say if mouse down an event.which is equal to 1, so that we know that this is a left click that is happening. Oops. I think that's reasonable, right? Ready?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so there's our left click. Right clicks just get ignored, and I can middle click, and somehow I'm pasting it too. Cool. So that seems to be working. I think at this point, I guess we want to say maybe we'll call out to like activate slider, and I like to make these kind of methods private. And then in here, what I'm tempted to do is we'll add the mouse move event listener. And we can still put this under this. And then I think what I might do as well is make a slider abort controller. And this is going to be a type of abort controller, but it's sometimes going to be null. And then we can say this.slider abort controller. First of all, we need to abort any old ones. And then we're going to make a new one. And the reason we're going to make a new one is because we can get the signal from that, pass it to every one of these events that we have. So I think we're also going to have like a mouse up, right?
Yep.
And then in here, if we say else if the event type is mouse up, then we can take the slider abort controller and just call it, and that would cancel both of these event listeners at once. Doesn't like this for some reason. Just wants parentheses around it. So this is looking good. So we should be able to, I'm going to say else console.log event. So if I were to right click, I get this mouse event. We're console logging that because we haven't met this condition. If I middle click, the same thing. If I click, I can now start seeing mouse events. And then if I let go of click, so this is working nicely. So then I guess we just need to figure out like how far away the cursor has traveled. So I think there's some fairly delicate interactions here, because we could do it from the middle of the element. But if I was at the end of the element and I slid, it's going to jump up the number quite a lot.
I think there are two ways of approaching this. Like, one is handling it like always taking into consideration the mouse position, and then applying the value relative to how many pixels have moved.
Right.
So the mouse event has a client X and client Y value, which we may use.
Mm-hmm. The
other option is to make the beginning of the input like if the input type number has a minimum and maximum value, then we can take into consideration the left like edge of the input to have the minimum value, and then the maximum to have the maximum value, which would be close to the input type range kind of behavior, where if I drag it to the end, it gets to the maximum, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Let's do that then. I think what we can do is just reflect a bunch of these attributes. So I'll reflect the value, and then attribute change to callback. So name is going to be value, old value, string or null, new value, string or null. So the input type naturally has, especially with a number, it naturally has a min and max, right? And so we should be able to take advantage of the validation there, but we'll still probably need to do some work there. If the name is value, then we want to set the value, new value, and then we also want to have the input, and so this is going to say this dot render root dot query selector input. Okay, so I think we can do the same with a min and max, min and max, but just to show what we've got so far, if I can navigate this UI that's been zoomed in so much. So this has a value of 0. This is our input type number. If I were to set the value here, it should reflect the value here, which isn't shown in the DOM. But if I open the console, 0.value, oh, it's an empty string. We've got some comments.
Oh, no, Joyce has a message for us.
I need to return the input. Thank you very much. Also, DNTNT says, shouldn't the cursor style persist even if the mouse is outside the input? Oh, when the mouse is down? Yeah, that's a good point. We should tackle that as well. We should look at that. Just put a bang there and that should stop that problem. Let's have a look. So the input value should be reflecting in the attribute change callback. let's add a console log here. New value. We're getting an error. Cannot read properties of undefined. Oh, we need to add a check here. So if the render root is not available, we need to return early. And then in the connected callback, we need to kind of match, like if the attribute has changed, it would synchronize it, but it's not going to synchronize it if the render root isn't available. And so we need to also, when we make the render root available, we need to say this.input.value is going to equal this.value. That should have done it, but we're still getting errors. I've got to change the zoom ratio of this. Hopefully that's still readable on the stream. Looks to be a similar font size now. Yeah, too much Ruby. Yes, I've Ruby's implicit returns has poisoned my brain. Cannot read properties of undefined readings. So this should now. This shouldn't be an error. Get input. I mean, we can add a question here. I think maybe that was from an old. Maybe because I've got persist logs on. So if we look at the value is 0 here. What is the value here? It's still empty. This is bizarre. If I change the value, yeah, we're getting the value there. Oh, I see kind of the problem. This should be get attribute value, because the value setter that we have is actually on the input itself. So now it's reflecting properly. Okay, so we want to do the same with the min and max, right? So we want to be able to say this slider should have a max of 100 and a min of 0. Sorry. So we can say name min this dot input min equals new value and name max the same, and then we need to duplicate that here as well. So max is going to be max and min is going to be min. So I think that goes to what you were saying, right? Where we want to reflect these properties here, and then with this slider, somehow, when we change the value, based on, I guess, the distance to what we moved, we want to change this number and make sure that it clips to these max and min values. So I guess when we activate the slider, we need like an initial X, I want to say. Let's set that for 0 for now, and let's define it up here just so that TypeScript's happy. So initial X is a number. Right, that is how we're going to do that one. Declared but never read. Well, so I guess in a mouse move, so else if event.type is mouse move, excuse me, we'll have the initial X, and in the event we have like this page X and Y that you're referring to, right? Is it the page X or is it? Oh,
I think it's the client X. Might be more. There's also screen X. I don't know the difference.
Interesting. Well, so this monitor, despite the appearance on the screen that this is in the top left of my monitor, it is actually quite a bit further away, as it might be indicated here. So the screen 733. That sounds about right. This is about 700 pixels away from the left edge of my monitor. So it feels like the screen X is the position of the cursor on the entire of my screen,
Interesting.
If I go from, if I start logging event screen X, and let's also do client X and page X. We're going to get an error for some reason. Why is this not logging? Oh, probably also would be helpful to log there. Yeah. So if I go to the very top left, that's 0, minus 305, minus 305. If I go to the top right, my screen is a 4K screen, and we can see it's 3839, but we're at the very edge of the document, and this window is 1920 by 1080 minus any of the like window decorations and stuff. And then, so I think it depends whether or not we want to consider a slide across the entire contents of the screen or the entire contents of the document. Like, should the edge be here, or could it even be over here? Can my drag gesture leave the screen?
I mean, if I start dragging an input and I still have space on the screen available, I would expect that it's possible for me to continue dragging.
Yeah. It looks as though all of these values actually allow for that. So if I drag, so here I am at the edge of the screen, which is 548, but I can continue dragging, and I'm still getting new values on the client X and the page X. So I don't think we can not do that. I don't think there's a.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to do additional work to avoid that. So I guess screen X is just as good as any, right? At least it gives us some absolute bounds where we know that we've got the screen top left edge is 0, and the top right is whatever your screen resolution is. So I think we can also get this from the window element itself. So perhaps when we activate, we should say that the initial X is the screen X. DNTNT says client X. Do you think that client X is better for this for some reason? Or do you think screen X or... There was an old comment. Sorry, I think there's a lag in the comments as well. So we've got the initial X, and we can just work out like the event.screenX minus initial X. So we can see how far away we are from our first event. As long as you keep the same coordinates, it doesn't matter. Or it shouldn't matter. I agree. So if we go back to where I was, well, let me try and click in the middle of the input. So we're in the middle of the input. If I click and drag, we can see I'm getting values. If I go back to the left of where I clicked, we should start to see... Oh, that's interesting. It was quite a way off that we started to see minus
When you
values.
started clicking, it was around 60.
Was it already around 60?
Yeah.
Huh. Isn't that interesting? We should have seen the initial X should be set to Windows screen X. Let's set a console log here. Whoops. So if I click, I get 533. And then I can go a little bit right. And that's 60 pixels already. Seems a bit... This seems a little unreliable. We could switch to client X. Maybe client X is a bit more reliable, but I think maybe my maths is off or something. Should the initial X should be relative to where the mouse down occurred? Maybe the delta is what matters. I agree. DNTNT. So we're logging the delta here, and this should be, so this is the same as this, or is it? Maybe these are different values. I think they're the same though, right? Oh, that's not the same at all. That's the top left of this entire window. We should pass the event here.
Oh, I see.
I'm a very silly developer. This is the screen X on the window is not the cursor position. It is the position of the window on the screen. So now this is doing what I was expecting. So if I if I click in the middle of the input, as I start to scroll, I'm getting very small pixel values, and as I go backwards, I'm getting negative. This now works. Lowerfi says sweet. It is very sweet. Okay. What do we do now? I guess we can, because if we add the pixel value, this is going to be an incredibly difficult control to use. I mean, let's try this. We can see what happens. So we have the delta, so we can say delta equals this. And then we can say this dot value plus equals delta. Oh, cool. That's fantastic. So I think what we want to do is coerce this to a number. Nope. So that is going to take the number and convert it to a string, and then this is going to say number or 0. That should fix that issue. Yeah, okay. We're not respecting the max value at all here.
Also, you're moving really fast, like considering that the input may have just like not more than 100 pixels.
Exactly, yeah. So we want to... A fairly naive way to figure this out would be like to take this and just divide it by 100, I guess. And then I guess floor this. But I think that feels like kind of clunky, right? It's even clunkier than I thought. Is that just genuinely broken? So I think there's got to be another way that we can do this. Maybe we want to think about the bounds of the document as the upper and lower range. What do you think about that? I'm willing to take input as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it feels that if we were to only update based on the pixel values, like it wouldn't be as abrupt as what we are seeing there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like using the reference of the entire document is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to
like if
go on.
Just looking at the what you have running there, like it looks like it's adding too much to the mouse move.
The problem is when you start moving left, you should decrease the value. I believe that is the case. But the current logic, it still adds up. I think it is the case that we are decreasing as I move left. And then there seems to be a bug for some reason.
We should have a prevent default as well.
I was going to say, I think the problem here... excuse me. I think the problem is that we need a prevent default. This should be event.prevent default here. If I try clicking and then move right and then left. Yeah, this is also a problem. So I think we need to recontextualize the problem. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to add an input type range here. And we'll set the value to 0. max to 100, min to 0. Maybe even step to 1. Nojo says, should delta contribute to the size of the step? Then as you hold the mouse down, we just keep stepping. That's definitely an option. I wanted to look at the slider because I think this gives us an idea of what we are maybe aiming for. DNTNT says, since we're only saving the X during the mouse down, the anchor will still cause it to be a positive delta. I think that is correct indeed. I think what we want is this kind of invisible slider. So like, if I click and drag, the slider kind of follows my mouse position, but there's always this kind of boundary with which it exists. I think if you get rid of the max, no, it doesn't do anything. Maybe the max defaults to something. I'm wondering if we do something similar to this though. I'm wondering if we kind of, in a virtual space, if we can emulate some kind of boundary, and then that can be like a hidden slider, and then we know that like where our cursor exists within the leftmost and the rightmost. I wonder if that would help. The alternative, I think, Nojo's saying, where we just almost use it as like a lever, like the harder you pull, almost like it's got this elasticity. So if I pull all the way right, it will just almost increase like the acceleration or something. I don't know.
If we make it like the input type range, I guess we would need to have the boundaries of the input to figure out what's the position of the left side from the right side, to see like compared to the mouse position, like how does it compare?
That's right. So I was thinking, yeah, if when you mouse down, if we calculate some kind of imaginary boundaries, maybe like 100 pixels left, or like 2 input widths left and 2 input widths right, and those represent the like minus 100% and 100%. Excuse me. I'm wondering if that would help. So DNTNT is saying maybe avoid plus equals a value would help. We can definitely try that. So you're saying we could just do this. I guess we would need to work out this would need to be a division of the max and the min. We need to think about what the max and the min are in terms of their default values. We need some conversion, exactly, yeah. Based off of the clamp, yes, exactly, DNTNT. What do you think about that, Vinny?
I think that makes sense. Like, if we just like continue, like, let's try having this like based on the relative position of the mouse cursor, like we have right now, with a clamp.
Yeah, with a clamp. So we need to say math min would be the min. Math max would be the max. And then we need to work out I'm kind of lost where we're going actually with this. So we're saying, like, would we say, given that we're 0 and 100, if I click here, does that mean if I move 100 pixels to the right, then I should be at 100 here? This value should be 100. So if we were to say, we could just take the delta, sorry, TNT says the other way around, probably, I always get this all the wrong way around. So this should be max, and this should be min. And then maybe we'll just throw the delta straight in there. I don't think that that's correct. We're way off. Nan. Starting to lose my voice again, which is fun. These aren't defined is the problem. So I'm just going to take these. This is going to be max. I don't know if the max was not applying, it seemed, to the input type number, which was odd. I thought it was supposed to. Okay, that happened very quickly. That was one small mouse movement. I don't know what's happening now. So let me just inspect the element itself. So we've got this input. This should have 0.max. Oh, this is a string again. 0.min. Let's log out the delta again. Yeah, this is a very small amount of delta. The maximum should be either the this is the wrong way around as well, isn't it? This should be min and this should be max. Yeah. Oops, I see the problem now. So there we go. This is feeling a bit nicer.
Nice.
Yeah, this feels okay. This feels okay. We kind of have this issue. I'm not sure if this is so much of an issue, but where I start depends on this. That is effectively the zero value. So as you can see, like if I start near the edge here, I can move 100 pixels out from that, and I'm at 100. But as I move back to it, I go back to 0. I wonder if that is an issue.
Is something related to the initial X position not being?
I think it's mostly we're presuming that the initial X, kind of based on this, because we're using this delta and we're assigning directly on the delta, the maths is set up such that the start position is the 0 value. Maybe that's not a problem, but it seems to be. It seems.
Yeah, if we have a value set already in the input, then I would expect to have a relative variation based on that original value, right?
Right, like if I slide to the right, I should always be adding, and if I slide to the left, I should always be taking away. As it stands, if I slide to the left, I'm always at 0. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And if I slide to the right, every time I do it, I start again.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably want to capture the initial value as well, I guess. So the initial value will be 0. And then when we have the initial value, so we're gonna set it to this dot value, and then the delta will also account for that. So it'll be this dot value plus this dot initial value plus the delta here.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess another way to put this is this will be let's say const new value this dot initial value plus delta, and then this should be a new value. So now if I scroll left, I mean, I can't get any lower than 0, so let's set the input to 50 by default. And then if I click and scroll left, yeah, that's very cool.
Nice.
And so now it is only additive. The more I scroll right, the more I am adding to the value, but I'm never resetting. So this feels nice. This works out quite nicely. I think the only thing I would really like to do, maybe in the last 2 minutes, is rip off the work we did in the other stream with the hold button element. It had a really cool we had this really cool background, and I'm wondering if we can use this. So I think we want to set a property. So in this we had this activation delay excuse me, and we had this background position. I'm wondering if the background position,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
if this was set to the var value filled, I'm going to call it 0%. I wonder if we can kind of change that to fill up the input's background so that we can see how close we are from the min and the max. Kind of like you can do the this happens in the Blender, right? Is you get this thing that fills up.
It's also connected to the slider, the range input.
Right, exactly. We're nearly at time, which is that's the wrong thing. I want this. Excuse me. So we want to make a new style sheet. We just want to attach it, so this dot style sheet, and then we want to. I guess what we want to do is whenever the min and max change. Oh no, it would be based on the value, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So we can say, I guess because we're assigning a value, whenever we change the value, we can say, wrong one. We can put it in here, and we want to do this replace sync. I'm going to just copy and paste this code, and then this is going to be value filled. Filled. Whoops. Value percent. This we need to do a little bit of maths here, don't we? So we need to say math.max. We need to say value divided by this dot max. Wait, what is it? This dot max divided by value. We want to express this as a percent. This value as a percent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really terrible at this kind of math. I'm conscious that we're over stream, but I don't mind going over by a couple of minutes to make up for the terrible start of this with the flickering. Also, we'd really like to see this done. I'm going to set this as value just so we can see. Okay, it's kind of working, but it's needs to be the other way around, and I have no idea how to do that.
Should it be the position X instead of position Y?
It should, shouldn't it? Oh, thank you, DNTNT. It's going to be 100. 100 divided by the value multiplied by this dot max minus this dot min. That's what I was secretly hoping for, is one of you that in the comments that's better than me at this stuff can handle. I don't know why it is asking for parentheses there, but okay.
Ooh.
That's not
I think
right.
that the linear gradient needs a proper direction. I think it's set to 0. So instead of having 0 at the first argument, you can say to right, I think.
To right, like this?
Yeah.
Oh, close. I guess it's this that we want to change then. This is the percentage that we want to change.
Is the background position?
If I
Should it
just
be Y?
change this to value filled, and
Oh, I see.
here, yeah, this one. For some reason that didn't. Oh wow, what has gone on there? Var value filled, and then I get rid of this. Would that do it? So DNTNT is saying that we should swap these values. I'm happy to try it. Have I just messed it up with this though?
I think the background size would need the position
So
set to Y.
the background size needs the position set to Y.
Background position X. Sorry.
Oh, this needs to be X as well. I messed up your thing here. I've undone your suggestion there. Okay, well we're kind of getting it. It's doing something. Excuse me. I really feel like I want to go back to this. I think this is the...
Yeah, maybe that's simpler to just change that value directly. But then you need to remove the background size and position, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, this is interesting. Maybe we should actually debug this CSS. This is what I mean though, right? CSS is like incredibly complicated. It is not just this should be a percentage already, but let's set it to 0%. Where are we? So I don't need the console, I need the style inspector. So the shadow root should have set. I realize that, so this is set on the host. So if I change this, okay, so we've got, so this is the first problem. This is 156%, which is not accurate. Is it these parentheses? Should this be this? .1 infinity. It's not that then. It is something here, I believe. This is the problem. We're getting these outrageously large percentages, which is part of what is going wrong. If I set this to 50%, it is filled 50%. If I set it to 75%, it's filled 75%. It's multiply and then divide like this. DNTNT says. It is. Look at that. It's so magic when it comes together. It's so magic. Ah, this looks cool now. I mean, I'm not in love with the inset border, but I guess that's the default user agent style as soon as you set a background color on these things.
And I guess one thing that we didn't do is like letting the user edit the input field if I just click on it, because we are hijacking the mouse down. Right, and so we want to see a mouse up event as well, I guess. We're in the wrong file.
We have time.
I think we've got a couple more minutes, and then we should. I've got little humans to put to bed, I think. So, okay, so we want a mouse up event. We already have a mouse up event, right? We have a mouse up. So how are we going to do this then? If we
mouse down and then mouse up, but there is no mouse move in between, we can focus the input and select the text.
Okay.
No.
That is interesting. How can we determine that? We could add a flag. So I guess we could. DNTNT says I copied it the other way around. We have a scroll back. I did copy it the other way around. You're 100% correct. I apologize for throwing that spatter in. Okay, so we can add a value called value changed, which should equal false. And then we can always set this back to false. We can set this back to false on the mouse up. On the mouse move, we can say this dot value changed equals true. And then if on the mouse up the value hasn't changed, I guess we just say this dot input dot focus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, it works. The value
if I
changing.
drag.
If I drag, it works. Yeah, this is working quite nice. The value changing doesn't actually change this.
Oh, I
think that is the last piece of this puzzle, which is that we need to add on the input. We need to add a change. I guess it would bubble up, and then we can say else if event.type is change. Then we're going to say this dot value equals this dot input dot value. So we've got the slider, and then if I change this number, it is not change. Is it input? Oh no. Maybe it does need to be directly bound input. I thought it was an event that bubbled. Oh, it might help if I also change this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Okay,
That's
we did
beautiful.
it. I think we've got a mostly complete element.
Yeah.
It needs a
That
lot
was
of
nice.
polish. It needs some design touches. But yeah, this feels good. I wish you could all interact with this. Maybe if we push it up.
Yeah, like one thing that feels like could be an improvement, and like after you focus, to select the entire text. So maybe if you just duplicate that line of the focus to also select. But this is
Duplicate the
Nice.
line of the focus to select. Oh,
line 97.
line 97.
Oh, sorry, did I see
Yeah.
that wrong? Yeah.
How do you, is there a quick way to select? I think you need to create a range or
Just
something.
duplicate that line and dot select.
Oh, is it? Is it just select?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's unreal. I never knew that
Yeah.
existed as a method. It is. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I can misclick, and it doesn't. It just changes it. I don't know if I can
Oh,
like that. But maybe that's.
see.
What if we just remove the prevent default on mouse down? If we do that, you can see I'm selected in here already, which I don't know is the nicest thing.
yeah. If I'm just dragging, I wouldn't expect to focus it instantly like that.
Yeah, I think this might be a question that we could throw to some folks who are accessibility experts to determine what the best course of action is here. Because yeah, clicking and dragging might be a different contextual thing. It's an interesting conversation. I think we're going to have to call it there though. I've actually forgotten your GitHub handle, but other than
It's
that,
a V de Pizzal
oh right, yes,
with two Z's.
two Z's like this.
Yeah. Yep. That's such a nice little NPX
Uh,
way to add coworkers into the commit.
Chris has done a wonderful job with it. We'll push, and I think that's going to be the end of this session. I'm going to go and cough, I think, about 1 million times because it's just here, and I'm trying to hold it back from the stream. It's been fun, everyone.
Well,
it was a
that was
journey,
amazing.
journey
Thank
at the start, wasn't it? Please come back. I would love to have you for another session.
Will do. Yeah. That was
And
nice.
maybe we can work on a new element. All right. See you all. See you all around.
Ciao.